All right, welcome. Today, we are diving into one of the most fascinating and, frankly, unique personal learning systems I've ever come across. It's a framework that literally mashes up hardcore academic study with epic universe scale world building. And it all kicks off with one simple but really profound question. I mean, that's a wild question, right? But it's the absolute heart of the entire system we're going to break down today. How do you take a subject that, let's be honest, has a reputation for being brutally difficult and turn it into a creative act of discovery? Well, the answer is pretty mind-blowing. Okay, so let's peel back the very first layer of this thing. We're going to start with the most hands-on, practical part of it. The piece that connects directly to a real college course. This will show you exactly how this super imaginative approach actually works in the real world. And that brings us to this idea called limbic alchemy. Now, I know it sounds like it's straight out of a fantasy novel, right? But it's actually a perfect one-to-one mirror for organic chemistry. What this system does is it takes all the real, rigorous science and just wraps it in the look and feel of a fictional universe. And this is just a brilliant illustration of how it works. So, you know how in OCHEM you have to memorize pKa values to figure out how strong an acid is? Well, in this system, you learn about SDT, which stands for somatic dissociation threshold. An acid becomes a nodal donor. See what's happening? The chemistry underneath is exactly the same, but the language is totally reskinned to fit this bigger story. It starts to feel less like just memorizing facts and more like you're learning the fundamental laws of a new universe. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a pretty clever study hack for one tough subject. But limbic alchemy is really just the tip of the iceberg. It's the front door into a much, much bigger structure. And this is where you start to see the true scale of this project. This isn't just about one course. It's about creating essentially an entire academic operating system. This table just lays it all out so clearly. Organic chemistry is mirrored by limbic alchemy. Biology, that becomes vitology. Calculus is reimagined as flow calculus. Statistics turns into resonance metrics. This system is built to run in parallel with a whole curriculum, where every real-world subject gets its own awesome in-universe counterpart. So we've got this incredible bridge, right? Real academics on one side, fictional concepts on the other. But that leads to the next big question. Where does all this cool aesthetic stuff come from? You know, where do all these names and rules and the whole vibe actually originate? And that question takes us to the very core, the deepest layer of this whole thing. We're stepping away from the study guide now and diving straight into the prime narrative that fuels it all. We're going inside the aux canon. This quote, this signals a massive shift. We are officially leaving the classroom behind and entering a world of metaphysical laws and cosmic engines. This isn't just a clever phrase to help you remember something. It's an operational law from the lore itself. It's the absolute heartbeat of this entire fictional reality. The aux canon is the foundation for everything. It's this huge, sprawling universe that has its own system of physics, its own deep political history, its own languages, you name it. The study engine we were just looking at, it's simply borrowing its style and its metaphors from this incredibly deep well of pre-existing lore. And the depth here is just staggering. I mean, the lore covers everything from its own laws of physics and complex political treaties to unique data infrastructures and even a language encoded in time. Look, the point isn't to understand every single detail right now, but just to appreciate the sheer scale of the world building that's powering this learning tool. It's immense. But you know, for all that complexity, the core philosophy is actually beautifully simple and really powerful. Stagnation equals death. Flow equals life. This one idea, that any system has to adapt and correct and evolve if it wants to survive, that's the philosophical engine of the whole OX universe. And honestly, it's a pretty fantastic metaphor for learning itself, isn't it? Okay, so we've got the academic layer, and we've got this deep lore layer. The next logical question is, how in the world do they actually come together? Well, the answer is in the AI-powered core that actually builds all the study materials. This is the secret sauce. The entire thing is brought to life by generative AI. But, and this is key, the AI isn't just pulling ideas out of thin air. It is being meticulously guided by one single massive source document that contains all the rules, all the lore, and all the academic content. And that source document is called the DUA source. Its most important feature is this dual stream idea you see here. The manuscript is written with two tracks running side by side. one for the fictional aux cannon and one for the real-world study engine. The AI is trained on this, so it deeply understands both worlds and, crucially, how they relate to each other. So the actual workflow is surprisingly simple. The user creates a master prompt, that do-a-source document we talked about, which basically acts as the operating system. You feed that document to the AI, and then you can just ask it to generate real, concrete study materials, like a full exam module for flow calculus, complete with practice problems, quizzes, and even a video script, all perfectly styled in the lore. But hold on, with two parallel worlds like this, how do you stop them from crashing into each other in a weird way? The answer is a simple but totally brilliant bracket system that basically acts as a firewall. By tagging every single piece of information, the author can tell the AI exactly what's lore, what's a study note, and, this is critical, what's a private thought that should never be included in a final output. All of this brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. Why? I mean, what's the ultimate point of building a system this elaborate, this personal? And this quote from the source material just says it all. It's a sandbox, a personal laboratory. It's not just about acing exams. It's about creating a coherent, interconnected space for all of your thoughts, whether they're academic or creative or reflective, and structuring it in a way that it stays useful and accessible to you over time. So when you get right down to it, the OX do-a-source system is this profound fusion. It's a testament to the idea that analytical, rigorous learning doesn't have to be separate from creative narrative thinking. In fact, they can feed each other and enrich one another in this really powerful feedback loop. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If you could build a universe to house your own knowledge, your own ideas, what would its laws be? What would you name its continents and concepts? It's a fascinating question, and it's a really powerful way to rethink your own relationship with learning. Thanks for joining me on this one.